So I'm seeing 1 minute past my end, so I think we might as well kick off. We'll certainly have some people joining us as we go through, no doubt. So firstly, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world, welcome to this ChatTalent webinar. For those that don't know me, which I imagine most of you do by now, I'm Alan Walker. I'm your host for today. I'm also the editor of ChatTalent and the co-founder of a talent consultancy business called The Talent Finders. And with me today are Satish Kumar, chap on the right of your screen, and Leslie Tyler. Satish is the COO and co-founder of Glider, and Leslie is the VP of marketing. And they both live and work in California. So if, like me, you're in Europe and are currently looking out of your window at a whole load of snow, you can probably empathise with my jealousy of their weather. Satish and Leslie are going to talk to us today about automating elements of the recruitment process. They'll discuss the why, the where, the when, and some of the tools that can help you out with that. And if you have any questions as we go along, the best way for these to be heard is through the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Well, if I say it's at the bottom, it's at the bottom of my screen, so I'm assuming it's at the bottom of yours as well. I'll field those as we go through, and I'll ask Satish and Leslie those questions on your behalf, and we'll try and get through as many of those as we can. But we'll be doing our best to wrap up bang on time as ever. And we're also going to try something a little new today. So we're going to do a poll for the first time on a ChatTalent webinar. And I'm going to attempt to launch that without any problems. If you could check out the poll, answer the questions as well as you can. And we'll see those as they start coming through. We won't wait for everybody to answer. We'll let Satish and Leslie kick off. And we'll see what those answers look like as we start to work through. Does that work all right, guys?
Yeah.
Perfect. So I'm going to launch that now. You should see that on your screens. Answer as honestly as you can. And in the meantime, I think I'll hand over to Satish and you can kick off.
Perfect. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Hey, one question. So I was looking at the poll. Can you still see my screen?
I can see. No, I can't. I can just see your presentation slide.
Oh, just the presentation slide. Okay, good. All right. So Zoom doesn't hate me apparently.
No, it doesn't hate you.
It's working. So, okay, great.
Okay. So let's get started. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining the call. And I'm so delighted to be part of this webinar session. And thanks to Alan Walker for inviting us for this. So let's get started.
So do we have some poll results?
I have some poll results. Apparently I can't see that right now.
Yeah.
Do you have that available right now?
So maybe let's do this slide and then maybe the poll results will be ready.
Sure, yeah. So let's get started. So let me start by saying, what will you not be able to do after this webinar? This webinar is about streamlining and getting your job done very well with less work. Unfortunately, we don't have any app that will fill out all your job requisition for a swipe. Not yet anyway. Right? So what will you be able to do though? Right? I mean, by the end of this webinar, we'll hope that you will know whether automation can deliver benefits for you. If so, automating which step would give you the biggest bang for your effort, right? And finally, how to go about automating those steps. What are some of the tools available, and what are some of the do-it-yourself options are available for you free. So that is what we're going to cover as a part of this webinar. Now, before I jump further, do you have some more in the poll results?
I'm just sharing the results now, so they should be showing.
Aha.
Oh yeah, here we go.
All right. So I can clearly see that top winners are two areas. One is that interview process takes too long, and which 36% voting. And the second one is getting qualified candidates to respond to your outreach, right? Mm-hmm. And then third place is for sifting through CVs to find the qualified candidate. And the fourth one is not getting enough candidates to apply. So as you can see, there are mix of different challenges based on your organization, based on what roles you are seeking candidates for. And that is precisely what we are going to cover today, that automation is, first of all, not for everyone. And even within that, which part you want to automate, right? And really, we'll walk you through, dig deeper, that which aspect of the recruiting process you might want to automate. So it was pretty good outcome for me to see that we have different needs for different individual, different participant in this webinar. All right, so we are going to come back to this poll as well later to correlate which part will be applicable for automating within your organization. Let me just close the poll. Okay. So now the main goal of automation is to be more efficient, right? Get better outcome with less work. Automation should relieve you of the drudgery, the listing of the naughty and nice candidates on a spreadsheet, freeing you up to do the high value work and figuring out what type of people you should be recruiting, and really then point the machine in the right direction to help you find, engage, and evaluate them faster and easier than you're doing today. With your robot helper, you will have more time and bandwidth to make a human connection with the candidate and show them that your organization is the best place for them to learn and grow in their career. So more and more efforts will go towards building that a community, a very engaged community with you and your organization. And all the manual tasks should be left to automation depending on all your recruiting goals. So let's get started to move towards this nirvana. There are tons of automation options out there, including some from Glider.ai. We don't do all the steps as you can see on the screen, right? The several stages of engaging with the candidate, sourcing them, shortlisting, screening, interview, offer, right? And different companies would have different requirements. At several stages of the process, you can use chatbots like Olivia, or even do-it-yourself versions that work with Facebook Messenger, like or GitHub, right? Check out Chatfuel or Bot Academy. Now, Glider has the tools to personalize the outreach at scale, and using AI to stack rank those candidates, so that you can focus your attention on filling the best ones from the pile. Other tools like Pocket Recruiters also does this, and there are a number of tools that will help you post jobs and publish a lot of sites and maybe crawl some profile as well. So there are maze of tools, right? And some of which we'll drill down a bit later. But before you dive and looking for the coolest automation, let's take a step back to consider what hiring goals, what are the recruitment goals and the roadblocks to achieving those goals you will be facing. Now, automation can remove the roadblocks, provided you actually think through that if it is going to help you achieve your target. If your process currently does not deliver the outcome you want, automating is just going to make the bad outcome faster. Right? So you really need to evaluate what am I automating, and what is the goal of that automating that step. So we are going to walk you through some framework to think about what to automate and what not to automate. So the first step in automating your hiring is to identify your recruiting objective. So actually, before I go there, there are three distinct sections: think, analyze, and then execute. Right? So let's go through what are the things we're going to think through in deciding if I need the automation and which aspect of the hiring process, we're going to need the automation. So first one was recruitment objective. Identify what are those, and then the primary challenges or roadblocks to reaching those goals. For example, your primary goal may be hiring 50 engineers this year, or you're being blocked by not getting enough qualified people to apply. And these are two different challenges, right? Or you might need 2 salespeople and you're flooded with a lot of CVs. Or you may need to poach an expert in a very niche area, maybe some PhD candidates from top university. And within the same organization, you can find a mix of these as well based on the role, right? So for each of these areas, roadblocks will be different. And that was very apparent from the poll as well, that in some organization, and depending on what roles they're hiring for, you could see different challenges. And that is what we are calling roadblocks. Now, second part, make sure that what you're looking for, right? This seems really basic, but most of the job description doesn't do the trick, right? They focus on like years of experience, number of companies they have worked for, what are the schools they graduated from. While those are good signals to indicate that there could be a good outcome, but we know from the research that CVs are very less predictor. Only 20% of them result in a good job performance. So to get better at hiring, we need to ensure that the candidates can do the job. Understand what the needed competencies are for the job roles for which you are hiring. Then find out if the candidates have the right skills through some kind of evaluation mechanism, maybe with real life simulation during the process. And since research tells you anyway that the hands-on simulation are the true predictor of the job performance. And finally, once you find all these answers to the questions and your footing is sound, then we look at to automate and to deliver the candidate and make the machine go smoother and faster. So now we need to find, so we are going to apply this framework in the recruiting process, and Leslie is going to walk us through some examples how this framework is applicable under different scenarios. Over to you, Leslie.
Okay, thanks, Satish. All right, can you, I had hidden my video and I think I don't know how to unhide it.
I can see we can see the video.
You can see the video, okay. It's like, maybe I just hid it from myself. That's okay too. All right, let's see, let me go back to the screen here. Okay, great. So, yeah, so thanks, Satish. So as Satish is saying, we're going to take this framework of think, analyze, and do to a couple of examples that might be applicable in your organization. And from the poll results, it seems like the process taking too long is one of the main things that that automation can help. So in these examples, I hope that you'll see something something that resonates with you. So the first example is when we have a popular job. So for example, social media manager. So it's a position where a lot of people think they're qualified. A lot of people think, oh, I use Facebook, I can do social media marketing. So so you get a lot of applications. And then you post your job, use your automation to post your job to a lot of places. And then you get and you're flooded with CVs, and you have to wade through them to try to find the most qualified ones. And so the obvious place that automation can help you is in the middle two steps, is in the shortlisting step and the screening step, because you have a lot of applicants already. You won't be going out and trying to hunt particular people necessarily. So there's tools like Glider has one of these, as well as Pocket Recruiter and some others will take the incoming CVs that you have and screen them against a set of your job description. So if your job description has the skills that you need, the AI tool will be able to look at the CV and determine how well it matches the job description that you have put in. And then stack rank those candidates based on your criteria. In these kind of tools, you can also give human feedback. So the algorithm will stack rank them, and you can say, yes, that's a good one, no, this isn't, and then it'll learn over time what you're liking. So, and then the algorithm will get better. And then it doesn't prevent you from looking at from screening them all yourself. It only stack ranks them so you can look at the probably most qualified ones first. Where this can be really powerful as well is if you can put it to work on your existing resume pools, which we'll talk about in a minute. But anyway, you'll get the best bang from automating the stack ranking and then the screening. So the other piece that you have is an assessments and interviews and to do screening of these candidates. Talk about this in a minute. Okay, so for example, in this example, the must-have skills that we have, this social media manager needs to be able to write blogs and social posts and ads. They need to generate creative campaign ideas. They need to analyze content performance. So these are some of the must-have skills that this person will have to apply in their job every day. And so focusing on what the skills are that you need for this person, and how they'll have to apply them will get you on the same page as the hiring manager, so that as to just what you're looking for. So just thinking about sourcing based on demonstrated skills rather than background might also expand your pool to non-traditional candidates. So you'll have to put these skills into your AI algorithm to show you which are the most qualified candidates. And you might be able to surface some candidates that you might not have picked out, who might be able to demonstrate their work competency through some kind of an assessment that you may not have picked out because of their background. So once you've identified the skills, you can create an example project that simulates something that the new hire will need to do well to succeed in the job. So for example, in this case, maybe they need to write a blog post or put together a social media plan or create an ad, or here's some data, what should I do next, that kind of thing. So this exercise will reveal each candidate's level of skill and help you make a better hiring decision. The point at which the candidate might complete an example project will vary based on whether they're already on your A list or on your B list. So if you have somebody who's on your A list, your stack ranking algorithm has shown you that these are your A list candidates. You've reviewed their CVs. They seem like A list candidates. You may not want to send them an example project right away. You might want to bring them in for an interview and do an example project after that. But if they're on your B list and you were not going to bring them in for an interview, you could quickly and automatically kick them out an example project to complete, and then maybe they could earn their place onto the A list. So it's another way that some organizations expand their ideas and expand their pool. Because if someone then demonstrates their ability to do the work, maybe you want to invite them in for an interview. And so and these were people that you were not going to interview before. So there's no work on your part to find out that, oh, here's a qualified candidate, and I didn't have to spend any time on it. With a clear idea, this is you guys have IKEA in the UK, right?
Yeah, we've got IKEA.
But anyway, so this is the idea, right? The IKEA job interview says, please have a seat. And the interview is, the guy has to put his chair together. So, because to work at IKEA, you have to know how to build their furniture. So in a real world, this is a real world work simulation. And when you have a real world work simulation that's automatically administered and scored, then you can make better hiring decisions. All right, so my second example is automation for in-demand candidates. So, so in the first example, you were flooded with a ton of CVs. In the second example, you want to hire for a position like a Java developer, for example, where it might be hard to determine their skill level from the credentials, especially if it's a job description that, or a job role that you yourself haven't done before. And they're in-demand candidates because there's lots of competitors recruiting those same candidates, which is one of the things that results in the candidates not responding to your outreach, which was one of our poll question issues. So if you have this opposite problem where you want to hire in-demand candidates, like engineers, for example, you might be spending a lot of money on sourcing. And so it might make sense that, hey, if I need to hire these in-demand folks, I just need to do more outreach. I need to fill my funnel. I need to automate the sourcing component. And then just to fill the pipeline as full as possible. But, and that's a good strategy, but what might happen is you might source a bunch of candidates by posting your job everywhere and emailing everyone and increasing the employee referral bonus. And you can use a lot of tools to automate that. And once you automate that, then you've ginned up a lot of maybe semi-interested, maybe qualified candidates that you have to wade through. So again, if you don't have automated tools for shortlisting and screening, especially for screening these candidates, you're just going to overwhelm yourself down the pipeline by automating just the sourcing. So in this example, automating the sourcing and the screening will provide a much better outcome. So just think just to do a little bit of math, if you spend 3 hours sourcing and screening for each on-site interview that you do. So if you're spending 3 hours going through CVs, phone screening people, inviting and coordinating interviews. So say you spend 3 hours for every on-site interview you do, and then you're missing on the qualifications for those candidates, and you reject 80% of them. So if you do that math and you wanted to hire, say, 50 in the year, that's an entire full-time person just to interview people from the hiring team. And the most engineering teams hate interviewing anyway. So to spend the equivalent of a full-time person just doing that is way too expensive. So automating the screening, automating the sourcing will bring a lot of folks in the door, but then you need to automate the screening as well to make sure that you're passing the right people on to the interview stage. So again, we're in the thinking stage. We want to go back and get clarity on what these engineers need. So are they front end, are they back end, what languages, what level? And most importantly, how will they need to apply those skills in their job? So when you look at CVs and say LinkedIn profiles, engineers will say that they know these languages, or they've worked in these worked at this company in this kind of a role, but it doesn't give you very much information about what they can actually do in terms of coding. So creating a real world work simulation is a great chance for the hiring manager to help you quickly determine whether a candidate can do the job and should be brought in for an interview. So if the hiring manager can come up with and having this conversation with the hiring manager will help tremendously, but can come up with a task that, hey, if a candidate can do this task, we should interview them. It will make your job a lot easier, because what you could do is, in the pool of incoming folks that you have, or in your CRM pool, you can automatically surface candidates who maybe they haven't worked at the top companies, or maybe they haven't graduated from a top school, but could do the job and can earn their way into an interview with the hiring manager. So the best part is that with Glider anyway, that these tasks, even for coding, can be automatically scored. So you, as the recruiter, can get the results, give them a task, and get the results immediately without actually knowing what they're doing. So, like I can't tell on this example whether this is good or not, but I can see that it's all green, passed. So, so I can say, hey, give immediate feedback to the candidate. We're going to move you to the interview process, and go ahead and schedule the interview. And then I can send the work simulation, the example project, over to the hiring manager to review as well. So this can, as for technical positions, this can cut the time in your interviewing process quite significantly. If you're able to make sure you're passing folks that can do the job forward. Okay, and so my third example is automation for rare candidates. So your challenge might be hiring some highly pursued, high value, uncommon skill set, like a cybersecurity expert or a PhD R&D director, or these days a scandal-free CEO. And the competition is tough. There's only a few qualified people that exist. So you need to take a bit of a different approach. And so in this situation, the engagement and sourcing step is where automation is going to give you the biggest bang. So you can start early with these candidates, engaging with them in your community. If the field is small, most people know each other. Your marketing or sales team, or the people, if you're hiring this person, your business has something to do with this. So they probably know some of the people that you might want to hire. And you can make contact with them early through social media channels or trade shows, and make connections so that you can be in touch with them when you do have a role that comes up. And automated CRM tools can really help with that. Alternatively, you could reach out to people via LinkedIn with personalized messages. This is a screenshot just from one of the Glider tools. This is a free tool that we have, where LinkedIn Recruiter is also getting better at this. But our reach out tool sits on top of LinkedIn. It sits on top of LinkedIn and pulls information from the profile to help you write a personalized message to a bunch of people. So it's not exactly automatic, but it helps make it go faster. So, after you have automated the spot that fits your specific hiring challenge, you can use automation to make the whole machine go faster by widening the top of the funnel. So, your new funnel should be very wide at the top and then very narrow at the bottom. And this is really what automation can deliver for you. So, you can get more candidates, use automation to get more candidates in the pipeline, qualified and unqualified, and then automatically use screening, shortlisting and screening tools, as I mentioned, like the AI-powered stack ranking tools, or automated assessment and example work project kind of tools that are automatically scored to filter down your big pipeline into who you should interview. So since all of that can be happening in the background and be happening automatically without very much work from you, you can make the entire interview process go faster, also by hopefully making offers to more of the people that you interview, and spend that human time on the most qualified folks with demonstrated skills, as well as then making connections with the people who you do make offers to spend your time wooing them and making sure that they join. So that'll help the whole process go faster. The other thing I wanted to mention was that you can also one of the other ways to widen your pool, if you have some of the automation working for shortlisting and screening is that if you have an ATS, for example, or a CRM system, you can put your AI stack ranking tool and screening tool to work against the population of people who've already applied. I know a lot of recruiters feel like, yeah, I should do that. I should go back into the database, but it's a lot of work, and it doesn't bring up many good options. But if you have an automated way to do that, where you could stack rank the people already in your pool against your current job description, it'll get a stack ranked list, and people, based on their position in the list, you could automatically kick them out a message or some sort of work task to see who is interested and who might be qualified for this new job. The good news is that it's, once you get it set up, it's not very much work for you. Okay, so when you're doing it right, automation is going to save us time by doing the low value work that computers can do faster and sometimes more accurately than we can. But simply replacing human work with automation to save money is not going to give you any competitive advantage. So like this cartoon, your call is important, but not important enough for us to hire additional staff. So, the idea is that you want to use automation to make your recruiting process obviously less work, but also better. So when you save work doing some of the drudgery, then you can free up your time for the high value stuff of connecting with candidates and doing the thinking part, making sure that you're hiring for the right skills and making sure that the candidates that you're bringing in have those skills. And then allowing the algorithms and the robots and the chatbots to do that part of the work for you. And that's what will create a competitive advantage, as opposed to just replacing humans and allowing them to have less work. So any more? So I think we're open for questions now.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Leslie. Turn my video back on.
Okay.
Perfect. I love that. I certainly like that last point. I've done a talk a couple of times now about the future of recruitment technology, and I labour the point that actually if all you're doing is going out and purchasing technology to drive cost savings into your process, or what might be seen as efficiency, and often efficiency and cost savings go hand in hand, you're not really going to be adding any major value. You're just making maybe a wee bit quicker. But if you can do it to free up time so that recruiters can spend more human time with people, that's where you'll see the real value from this automation piece. And as you say, that thinking time as well, and the ability to then take all of the data that automation is collecting and be able to interpret and understand that data and make the right decisions about your process moving forward, understanding where you've got any bottlenecks or problems or issues or challenges, rather than doing that in what sometimes can be quite an anecdotal way. It really works well if you get it all humming and talking to each other brilliantly. So are you guys ready to go to some questions now?
Yeah, we can go to some questions. I saw there was a question about, Satish already answered it. Okay, great.
Yeah, so just for the rest of the audience, just in case, Amandeep had asked a couple of questions. First was about Glider itself working globally. Specifically, he was interested in whether it works in the USA, UK, Germany, India, and Australia. And Satish replied by text to say it works globally within English-speaking countries at the moment. And also he asked a question around, obviously Glider is great for tech talent. Will it work for sales? And Satish, this is a summary of it. It's applicable to all roles, so it can work across the piece really, and across any function and any vertical. So if you've got any other questions, guys, start feeding those through. I'm going to be selfish and ask a couple that I've got that I've been making notes about as we went along. So the first one, I always see the hiring process, the talent acquisition process, whatever you want to call it, as being, and I think this is a bit of an involvement really, it's gone past that offer stage and actually going to the point of getting the person through the door on the first day and making sure they actually land, so to speak. So once that offer has gone out to a candidate, and if I don't want to lose the candidate, is there any kind of automation that can help with the engagement with that candidate as after the offer's been made?
Satish?
Okay, sure. So this is perfect example to really put it out there that I don't think you should be considering automation at this crucial phase of hiring, right? You spent so much time, you and your team, to get this candidate to the stage where you are, and you have offered the candidate already. Now is the time to show this human touch, right? And you know what, there are so many factors that will go in the decision making by this candidate to join your organization. You don't want some machine and make it impersonal for this situation, right? And by the way, some of these parameters can be in your control about deciding the candidate to join your organization. Some you might not. So why to take the risk, right? You should be really going after this candidate, engage with this candidate for various reasons, maybe send an update on the company product, or invite the candidate for some company event, or maybe send a short video as a welcome message from the hiring manager. You have to find a reason to really engage and provide the human touch, right? I don't think even you should try to automate, even if there is some tool to automate. This is too late and too risky for you this time. So I will not recommend automation at this stage at all.
And I guess where that automation could help is after the offer has been accepted, they've signed the paperwork, they're going to join, they're joining in 2, 4, 6 weeks time, whenever it might be. And then there are tools out there that can help with that whole onboarding process to keep the candidate warm and warm them up for day one. So they're not turning up on the first day and having to be showed where the coffee machine is, or where to go to the toilet, or where to park. All of that can be covered off prior to the day, and people hit the ground running a little quicker.
Yeah, and you know what, to add to further that, during the onboarding process also, there are a few automation tools, including chatbots, to really answer a few questions about common problems they face after joining the company, right? Who to talk to for this, how to do this. And chatbots can be automated to help candidates during that onboarding process as well.
Exactly. So one more question from me, and then we'll start to look at what some of the audience have asked. So there's a lot of automation opportunities out there at the moment, and I spend all day looking at these things and talking about them quite often, but I'm not somebody nowadays who's actually implementing them on a day-to-day basis. It can become very hard if somebody thinks, all right, I want this for sourcing, I want this for screening, I want this for interview scheduling. It can be quite difficult to work with those multiple systems, and having to learn all those different systems as well and getting them to talk to each other. Have you got any experience or recommendations around that, guys?
Actually, very valid concern, right? And remember, it's not the recruitment team, but he has to work with the IT department and other people as well to make this work. Otherwise, he or she will be dealing with like 5 different systems, right? If you look at automation at every stage, there are so many touch points. So definitely when you assess a vendor for automation, you need to ask relevant questions around things around how does it fit to my hiring process, right? To avoid multiple touch points. Now, there could be something that you might need to change in your process, right, as well, and be open to that, by the way. But once you've identified your automation need, as you walk through the framework that I need automation and I need automation in these areas, I think you should put that into the evaluation criteria as well to your vendors that, see, I'm going to use automation for 1, 2, 3. First of all, do you provide automation for all these 3 areas? And if yes, do you integrate with what we are using today, right? And even if you're using multiple parties, maybe they integrate with each other as well. I don't know, but you have to ask these qualifying questions way early in the stage as well. And if you don't do that, yes, you have automation tool now in your system, but you have to log in system 1, do something else. Now transfer data from here to there. It actually might automate a specific step, but if you look at overall automation, you've added more overheads as well, which you want to avoid, right? So I think you should be adding these as your qualifying criteria for the vendors and get this answer.
So that interruptibility, the ability to play nicely with each other and talk to each other, etc., in a really smooth way with as little user input as possible. If you do leap from system to system, and if you can get a system that does it all the better.
Yeah, yes, and it really depends on that. Have you thought through about your automated hiring flow and really drawing it on a whiteboard or somewhere that this is how data is flowing from one to another. Here is the manual intervention. You need to know way ahead, right? Not that, hey, I got this automation tool, let me jump on it, and okay, I got this on automated, now what? Right? So really drawing this on a whiteboard and really asking question, who is doing this step, how it goes to next step. And you know what, in the entire process, you need to make sure that your data governance piece is very much intact, right? Because ultimately it's your data, right? And you don't want to be having it available in disparate systems and not talking to each other. And now you, because you are ultimately responsible to take the value out of your data, and if they're lying in 5 different systems, believe me, it's not going to help you at the end of the day, right? So
and a lot of ATS systems, if you use ATS, there's a lot of ATS systems that have a lot of different plugins. And so that's a good place to start, is to, is if you can look for tools that work with, provided you like your ATS, if you look for tools that, plug in with that ATS, then that will help a lot, because there's, pre-done APIs with a lot of the major Talio and iSIMS and a lot of the major greenhouse ATS systems.
You've mentioned one ATS that everybody hates there. I'm not going to say which one. But nobody really likes their ATS.
Nobody likes the ATS.
The
Exactly.
core of a recruiter is to hate their applicant tracking system.
yeah.
So, right, let's go to a couple of questions from the audience then. So I'm going to go with one from John first. He's asked both of us really, would those warm onboarding contact points be better coming from a people manager or the recruiter, and why? I'm happy to answer that first if you like, Satish. I think it's for the recruiter to shepherd and steer and make sure those conversations are being had. But if the hiring manager can have them, once the person's accepted the offer and they're definitely joining, all the better. It's not always possible, it's not always realistic, and hiring managers will avoid it like the plague. But actually, the best hiring managers will already be doing it themselves. The people who are aspiring to be the best hiring managers perhaps just don't know they should be. So sometimes they need a recruiter to put their arm around the shoulder and say, this is the right thing to do and this is why. You're going to create a better experience. You're going to have an engaged employee who's going to join your organization, raring to go, already thinking well of you as their future manager, who they're going to be joining soon, and wanting to do their best. If it's all done at arm's length, then that engagement, whether it's done by a recruiter or a machine, is kind of just goes through the floor, in my opinion. But Satish, if you've got another opinion on that, let me know.
Yeah, I completely agree. More the merrier. I mean, that's how it starts, right? I mean, you have more engagement points. So recruiter has already done his or her task to bringing candidate to this stage. It's much better to bring another person in the mix and really present, because at the end of the day, they're going to be working in the organization with multiple people, and it increases the engagement level as well, right? So I think I would really prefer that the people manager should get engaged if they are sort of qualified. And I'll put this with some pinch of salt, because if you think that they are not capable of creating this early bond, maybe you should not engage. But most likely that is not the case, and you should engage.
Well, and I agree with that. The more the merrier. And even, in the best organizations, the people who the person interviewed with, even if they're not the hiring manager, and you as the recruiter can write a little templated email and say, hey, this person is joining, or, this person has been made an offer, and, the templated email will say, congratulations, we're so excited. I really enjoyed meeting you. You're great for this role. We're so excited to start working together, and, we need you, basically. And then they can pop that out, hopefully. And the more people you get who have met the candidate, the more the candidate will feel, wanted.
Exactly. So I think we've got time for one last question.
So I think this one is an excellent one at the top.
Yeah, I was going to run through that one. So it's around kind of smaller organisations or less well-known brands. They and I don't know who they are because their name is anonymous, unless that actually is their name. They've seen they have a lot of people dropping out of their automated screening process when they've used automated solutions, that is. And tech talent don't always want to do those tests or tasks without being brought into the process first. I imagine if you're a Google or Facebook paying top dollar, you can probably force people through it and they'll do it.
Exactly.
But with those smaller organizations who aren't necessarily paying top dollar, and they're not necessarily a brand that people desperately want to work for, yet they may well be in the future. How do you handle that?
So I think that's a really, really excellent question about the pushback of people with tech talent, like in that example that we gave, don't want to do tests. And I think that, the good news is that the Googles and the Facebooks of the world have made it more standard, have made it more standard that this is part of the process. So that's good for everyone else. I think that you're exactly right. Where you put it in the process is key. And so if your A-list candidates who, from either your current screening process or from some AI matching algorithm that surface as your top candidates, you probably don't want to say, hi, top candidate, I'm a bot, take my test. They're probably going to lose them, right? So those folks, you probably want to engage first, talk about the role, how great your company is, do a phone screen. That's a bit of a sales job. And then you can do either do an automated test, or you can do a live, with coding anyway, you can do a live interview session as well. So, like we're doing now. So you're talking to the candidate's doing their task, and it's a lot more of a personal way to do an automated screening that's still not using the engineering team's time.
Yeah, so to add to the point that Leslie just mentioned right now, the live interview is really still with the power of automation, where you are engaging with the candidates through the video, but you don't understand really the task. Task was given and agreed upon by the hiring manager. You are there to just provide the face time, and candidate is working on the problem, and system will evaluate, right? So that way, any brand can execute this task. And the good part is that you don't need to be a technical person to conduct this interview as well, right? Still, you are assessing at a deeper level with the right kind of simulation for the job.
Excellent. Well, listen, we've overrun by a couple of minutes. We've been pretty good. We're only a couple of minutes past cut-off time. So I think we've worked through the majority of the questions now, certainly. If there are any others, I'll quickly review afterwards, and I'll get back to you guys and see if we can answer those by email later. Thank you, Satish. Thank you, Leslie. I really enjoyed that. And this is the first time I've turned my video on in a ChatTalent webinar, and it was all right.
It worked out okay.
It may well have terrified the audience, but for me, it wasn't too bad. So thank you for making me brave on that front. Thank you for everybody who turned up and saw this. We'll get all the recording out to you and the slide deck, etc. A few hours after the call, possibly tomorrow morning. And also send that out to anybody who signed up for the recording. So thank you very much, and see you soon.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Stay warm.